Oil falls as U.S. inflation statistics surges. China imposes lockdowns. New York oil expenses fell on Friday, after U.S. patron prices rose extra than expected and China imposed new COVID-19 lockdown measures. Brent crude fell $1.06 to settle at $122.01 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude fell 84 cents to settle at $120.67 a barrel. Both benchmarks nonetheless posted weekly gains, 1.9% for Brent and 1.5% for WTI. For the day, oil fees sank along with Wall Street shares after news that U.S. consumer charges accelerated in May. Gasoline charges have hit a file excessive and the price of meals has soared, leading to the biggest annual increase in about 40 years. That raises expectations that the Federal Reserve will tighten coverage greater aggressively. The situation is that as a head indicator of consumer habits, and even though gasoline call for is strong now, it is a sign inside the destiny that if gas expenses do not stabilize then consumers will be slicing lower back, said Phil Flynn, analyst at Price Futures. In any other crimson flag for demand, Shanghai and Beijing went back on COVID alert on Thursday. Parts of Shanghai imposed new lockdown restrictions and the city introduced a round of mass testing for tens of millions of residents. China's crude oil imports in May were up nearly 12% from a year in advance, once they were low. This does not suggest that oil demand is choosing up. Instead, China is possibly to have acted opportunistically, shopping for crude oil from Russia at a substantially lower rate than the global market level as a way to refill its stocks, Commerzbank ETR, CBKG analyst Karsten Fritsch said. Oil had risen more than $1 earlier inside the consultation from fears of a ability disruption in elements in Europe and Africa. Norway's oil output can be decreased if employees cross on strike on Sunday, the Norwegian Oil and Gas Association (NOG) stated. Some 845 of approximately 7,500 employees on offshore structures plan to strike from June 12 if annual pay negotiations fail. Oil output at Libya's Sarir field has been reduced after the ports of Ras Lanuf and Es Sider were closed and as a set threatened to shut Hariga port, two oil engineers at the sector said. In U.S. deliver, the U.S. oil rig count, an indication of future deliver, rose 6 to 580 this week, their maximum considering the fact that March 2020. Prospects are receding for achieving a nuclear cope with Iran and lifting U.S. sanctions on the Iranian electricity zone. Iran on Thursday dealt a near-fatal blow to probabilities of reviving the nuclear deal as it commenced putting off basically all the International Atomic Energy Agency tracking system set up underneath the deal, IAEA leader Rafael Grossi said. Money managers reduce their Internet-long U.S. crude futures and options positions by way of 1,674 contracts to 284,171 inside the week to June 7, the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission (CFTC) said on Friday.